So I'm going to do a slight bit of a variation to my own. Where I've stitched my own, I've sewn the lining with it. With this, I'm not going to sew the lining with it because there is a slight bit of a stiffness in the fabric. Also, I'm going to make this, the nap is a slightly bit of an A-line. I'm going to make this more of a straight kameez. The other thing that I want to point out is keep the length to a sort of like a minimal. I've done mine and I'm a little bit actually conscious of it because it's a little, just a touch shorter. It's a slightly stiffer, so I'm going to stitch the lining separately. This one is got the slight bit of a different work to mine. This is more sequence, sorry, mirror work. So when it's gay, so a good way to start your sewing projects. Now she's quite petite on the hips. I've got big hips, so my kameez is always like a lot wider on the hip area. Put a little bit far from the neckline so that you can easily stitch around the sequence parts. This is just the front. All these little leftover pieces we're going to be using later on. Now the back, I've pressed it all. Now the fabric on this is like a tissue type of cotton. Tissue cotton. It's an Indian tissue cotton. Okay. Now the actual flow of this fabric is this way, but because we've got the other kameez cut, the other side cut like this, so we're going to cut in the same way, and then the fabric that's left over from there we're going to leave for the sleeves. We want to have the same kind of a flow. This is just standard. You would have seen me do this so many times. And I get the complaint that, you know what, I don't explain clearly, I just go get on with it. That's because I've been doing it for so long that I feel like I'm repeating myself when I do the same thing again and again and again. Now I did mine with fitted darts and so on. This one I'm just going to do it standard. I'm not going to dart it or anything. Now the sleeves come out a touch shorter, and I've taken off the lace that originally came with it for the border, and I'm going to be using that. She's got shorter arms than me, so she's alright. cut the lining exactly the same, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it separate to the dress. It just stiffens it out, and I don't want this stiffened look. That's it. That's the kameez all done. For the trouser, I've pressed this, and I'm going to just do a very wide, more like a salwar trouser, because it's such a fine fabric. I don't really want to cut anything else that's gonna make it tear away. Now at the back over here, I'm going to raise the crotch area slightly. This much fabric and add this to the back of the crunch just to give it a slight bit of a length. This will just be the actual turning, and then I've just got the basic turning. Now at the front I don't need it, just at the back. So that's that. From this I'm gonna take out the straight pieces to trim the jogs with. And the diamond. trimming the jocks on the for trimming the neckline. That's a sort of like a slight bit of a angled cut, and that's it. That's all the cutting done. Okay, so I'm making a neckline with piping. What I've done is attach a zip foot on and attach the piping around the edge using the zip foot with using a cording inside. Now the cording that I've used is this inside of the fabric, contrasting fabric, and I am ready to attach the lining piece. I'm going to do this in the one. Now if you remember, I mentioned earlier on in the video that I was going to stitch the lining separate, but I will attach it at the neckline. So first of all, we need to place this lining underneath and the fabric on top, and really center this and lay it in position, and perhaps just add a pin or two here or there and just get it evened out so that we haven't got it too much to one side. Now I did cut the lining slightly larger, so I'm going to leave that slightly bit overhanging, raise it a little bit so that we've got it close enough to the neck. I'm just gonna randomly put a pin in so it doesn't move out of place, and then take that along, and I'll be stitching on the existing seam. That sort of like gives us a guideline, because we've already got, so it has two basic guidelines here, because one, we will only stitch right close to the edge with the zip foot, and secondly, with the existing seam also being there, we already know that we're following some kind of a very easy to do neckline. It's a beautiful shape of a neckline, this neckline. It's handy neckline, I think they call it. Once you've sewn it all, you need to trim away the excess. And then we're going to notch and turn it over and just give it a press so that it's sitting nicely. So I'm going to just pin that, I'm going to turn this over and just give it a nice press so that it's all sitting evenly, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the rest of this, because I'm not going to attach the sleeves lining on the sleeves. and also I don't want this sewing in on the shoulders as well. I want to leave it separate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly show you how I'm going to go around and do that in a few minutes. Okay, so this is the back of the chemise. What I've done is I've trimmed it down on the shoulders, and I've turned the edges of the shoulders at the front and the back. The front, I've attached the front and the back on the shoulders, and this I've already pre-trimmed the edges of that. So that's the lining, and then that's the two right and wrong side of the dress. Now we're going to take the chemise and we're going to put it on top of the stitched, partly stitched top and bottom, and we're going to do a secondary seam where I'm going to attach the lining with this, and then when I get to the neck, I'm not going to use any additional lining back piece. Just do it on the self fabric, and then we're just going to turn it over, and it's going to be an invisible. This is like a lot easier to do. There's no point in complicating things when you can do it easily. And again, you get to the shoulder and we run the seam all the way across. So once you've done that, we're going to notch into this. Oh, I just went and cut into that. I have to reinforce that seam since I've gone and cut into it. Accidents can happen very easily. It's an idea always to do this seam twice, because sometimes kameez they end up giving in on the silliest of places. Right, so we're going to turn this right side, and that's the back of the neck, and then that's the shoulders, and that's the right side of the dress. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is, let's try and push the camera back a bit, is the chemise. Now I'm going to take the two chemise pieces, keep the kameez parts separate, and just fit this out, the chemise to chemise. It's an idea to lay your kameez on top of it and just mark it out so that it prevents any mistakes. So as I mentioned right at the start, I was going to make a garrara with this dress also. So for the garrara, this is a straightforward garrara. These are the pieces that I'm going to be making the gathers from. Now I was a little bit fabric short, so if you're making a garrara from scratch and if you want quite a bit of flair to it and so on, then you would probably require 3.5 to 4 yards of fabric to get good amount of gathers. Now I only had 2.5 yards of fabric, just a little bit over 2 meters. So what I've done is I've cut that into pieces and managed to get, I mean this is like for a 12-year-old, so although she's like a fully grown young lady, so this is approximately 2 yards in width, and that's the one leg. Okay, so I've added a trim to the bottom. This is like the sort of color of, I had to get additional fabric because obviously the suits don't have enough fabric to be able to do that from. So I've matched it up to the best that I could. This is going to be the dress. You may have seen this in the previous video, but if not, then that's the dress that's going to be with this sharara. I've matched up the colour and I've gone for like a goldeny lace to sort of blend in with the mirror work. So I've got 2 pieces of this, and I will be gathering and adding this to the bottom of the leg. This is the open part. I've attached it on the back area. So these are the two upper leg pieces. That's the front crotch, that's the side up to the thigh, up to the knee area, and then this is where the gathers are going to get attached. That's the back. I will add an additional piece because this is a little bit short. I was running short on fabric, so I will be adding enough for the belt area just to give it a little bit length. So that's the bottom, and once the gathers are placed, these are going to get attached here like this, and we're going to get so I'm going to use the gathering foot to actually do the gathers because I want to do the Jontawali gathers, although I'm not quite sure if to go for the box pleated ones. No, we're going to go for the normal gathers, which are going to be like the frill type gathers. Okay, so this is the frill gathering foot that I use, and I'm just going to attach that on. This is on an industrial machine. I recently purchased some parts for a small machine, and I've been meaning to use that, but just not, this is not the right time. Now I'm gonna put the machine's stitch, which is over here, onto a larger length, and then I'm going to tighten the tension just slightly. And before I go on to do on the actual fabric, what I'm going to do is just do like a pre-run on a bit of fabric. See how these come out. Okay, so that's the kind of gathers that I'm getting. If you wanted less gathers, then what you would do is make the stitch a little bit shorter length. I think that should be right for what we require. Sometimes the machine doesn't run, I mean that was a cotton fabric, the machine doesn't run as well on the silky fabrics, but we'll see how this goes. Keep about 1 centimeter away from the top of the edge. Yeah, this is gathering slightly less than what the cotton one was. I'm gonna just put it up slightly more. Bring the tension in. Brilliant foot to have this is. If you make a lot of children's frocks and so on, this is an ideal, or if you're making pillowcases and so on, this is an ideal foot to have. There was a big selection of these parts that I bought from the Wish app. Okay, so what we've got is that much for now. If you need to open these out a little bit, make sure to leave a slight bit of thread, and then you can slightly open them up a bit without tearing into it. Now I'm going to do the exact same for the other leg, and then change the foot and attach this to the leg part. Now, as I was saying, I was short on fabric, so what I did was I had to add like little pieces. But once this is gathered and once the whole fabric is attached to each other, you know, and warm, you're not going to be able to tell. change the stitching back and loosen the thread back up. Make sure that these gathers are evened out before you do a seam on top of them. As long as they're sitting properly, just do a pre-measurement as well, just to make sure. Just pull on the fabric, just straighten them up. Like this. Once you've attached all this, you need to, these fabrics are very flary. They tend to give in on the edges, so the fabric is not the best to stitch with. So you really need to overlock to stop the fraying. Now if you feel that you've got a slight bit more fabric, you can gather, you know, you can compact the gathers, but make sure that when you're compacting the gathers, you sort of even it out, like give it like a pull, even it out, and then push it underneath the foot. Obviously there's a knack to even doing this. Make sure that you're pulling and evening out before attaching, because you don't want to, like, we don't want the fabric to be double gathered and attached, otherwise the gathers tend to not hold their shape as well. Now towards the end, the gathers have fallen out a bit. Just give you a glimpse of what these gathers are like. Yeah. So we're going to overlock this and then press it, and that's even gathers all the way through. As you can see, when you pull on it, you get the feel of the gathers.